Good morning, Evergreen Eagles. It is a delight to be before you today. Welcome back to the 2014-2015 school year. I'm before you today because I want to go over the principles of learning. As you can see from the slide, my title has changed. I am now your assistant principal of instruction. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have a bachelor's degree in speech, language, and hearing, a state certification as teacher of the handicapped. I am presently working on my master's in special education, as well as my certification as a learning disabilities teacher consultant, and a certification as supervisor and principal. I've spent 3 years in Japan, teaching English in Japan, and 9 years as a communication handicap teacher. The past 13 years I've spent here at Evergreen as your resource room teacher. Evergreen Elementary School, the home of the Eagles, is a large urban K-5 school. It is home to 550 students and about 56 staff members. Evergreen is one of 10 elementary schools. Here in Plainfield, we have 2 middle schools, 1 7 through 12 school, and we have 2 high schools. Plainfield has a great mission. We have a great many students, and our mission here in Plainfield is that the Plainfield Public Schools, in partnership with the community, shall do whatever it takes for every student to achieve high academic standards. No alibis, no excuses, no exceptions. In keeping with that mission statement, the following 10 principles of learning are proposed to help Evergreen Elementary School become a teaching, learning, and inquiring community. Here are 10 principles of learning that I would like seen practiced here at Evergreen this school year. Our children should be active learners. We need to communicate high expectations. We need to maintain classroom management, teach for understanding, build children's background knowledge, immerse students in authentic experiences, provide good subject matter, have classrooms that are learning communities, give reflective assessments, and develop a strong professional learning community. Understand that this is a great task. There are 10 principles here, and I do not expect that we're going to get completely understood. We're going to understand these completely today. Instead, understand that these will be part of our staff developments and our grade level meetings for the next few weeks. We will take time on each one of these 10 principles, but today I'm going to provide you with an overview. Principle number 1, we need to have our students be active learners. Why? Our students will benefit from it because they will make more progress. They will have an interest in the learning process. We can achieve this by making them active in the classroom. Have cooperative learning activities. Have integrated units where they are engaging with the subject matter in math, and then again in science, and then again in literacy. Have small group activities. Have classroom workers so that they have an ownership of the class, and have class discussions so that the students understand that their voice is important. Their voice is actually welcomed in the classroom environment. Number 2 is that we need to have high expectations. In order for this to happen, our students have to understand what is expected of them at all times. They have to have rituals and routines, meaningful homework assignments. We need to communicate the lesson objectives. We need to use direct instruction where the students have a mini lesson. They have guided practice and independent practice. We are not just sitting at our desk during that independent practice, but we're walking around so that we can see what our students are understanding and see which students may need additional help. We need to cover the material that's going to be tested. We don't need to surprise our students. Do I want us teaching to a test? No, I do not. However, if we haven't covered the material, we shouldn't expect that those students will do well on a test that has that material that wasn't covered. We need to have review sessions. We need to review the material as often as needed. Either whole group, if you know that the whole class is struggling with the material, or in small group, where you've identified some students who have trouble with it and other students don't need that time. Number 3 is maintaining our classroom management. We need to develop students' self-discipline. If we're always having punishments, if we're always having corporal punishment and suspensions and expulsions, those things are going to work for the short term. But they are not going to be things that hold. They are not going to be things that work for the long term. So if our students have a part and an active part in their learning community, then they will have more self-discipline. They will want to have time in the classroom with their peers, so they will not want to act up. We're going to have positive behavior supports and focus on increasing the holding power of our activities. Having those activities be short, 10 to 20 minutes, so that students don't become bored and have a reason or create a reason to act up. We need to promote students' involvement in extracurricular activities as well. That gives them a sense of pride and helps them to own the school community and thereby lessen the amount of inappropriate behavior that we might see. Number 4 is that we need to teach for understanding. We need to understand, appreciate, and be able to apply, or our students need to understand the material, appreciate the material, and be able to apply it to their lives. Students need to connect the learning. They need to understand why the subject matter is necessary, and then they need to be able to use it. Whole group and small group discussions. The students need to, again, be able to have their voices heard and know that that is an important and viable part of the learning environment. We need to have cooperative learning activities, small group activities. In those small group activities, maybe they'll be competing as teams, or maybe they will be cycling through centers. We need to use workshop strategies where we have a mini lesson, and then maybe activities, and then a sharing time. Again, student voice is very important. Use presentation strategies that stimulate their interests. I'm going to spend more time on this one, but we need to relate their old knowledge to their new knowledge. We need to model and provide clear goals. Again, old knowledge to new knowledge. That is a part of building background knowledge. Active construction between the old and the new. Learners must build new knowledge structure. Better understanding occurs when prior knowledge is activated. In order to do that, they might be able to ask questions of themselves, self-generated questions. If the students cannot or don't have the prior knowledge on a particular subject, then it is up to us to build that. We can't just say, oh, well, here's your new knowledge. We need to build that background knowledge. We can do that by taking trips and having them experience things. And those trips could be small trips around the communities. If we can, certainly if this is in the budget, we'll have larger trips. But we need to not make an excuse, but use our community. Trips to the library, trips to a grocery store. Use our community. We need to provide them with videos, investigations, and presentations. Maybe we can get someone in the community to come in and do a lesson in your classroom. We have to teach them to make connections. Show them videos. Show them things in the world that help them to make text to text, text to self, and text to world connections. We have to provide our students with authentic experiences, real world experiences. We have to make sure that they are introduced and exposed to things that are real. We have to have higher order thinking activities where they have to solve problems. They have contextual learning. And then we have to think about repairing prior knowledge. Sometimes students have misconceptions, and they will build on that if we don't take the time to fix and to repair that background knowledge. We need to have differentiated instruction. And in order to do that, in order to know that this student needs this and this student needs that, we need to get to know our students. And that takes going beyond the classroom, having a discussion about their likes and their dislikes, spending time in their small groups talking about things that they would want to learn about. Good subject matter. Now, a lot of our district, we are set with the Common Core, as many districts in New Jersey are, and those Common Cores have done something quite wonderful. They've helped us to focus the goals. We've had to spend time on less goals so we can really go in depth into the goals that we do have to teach. Use your own district curriculum units. Those curriculum units are already aligned to the Common Core, and if we use them and use the videos that are on there and use the information and even the lessons that are on there, we certainly don't have to rebuild everything, but we can just add to what's already there to make it work for us in our classrooms. We need to limit and organize the content that fosters understanding and expertise. Again, that goes back to making sure that we're not trying to teach everything. We can't get to everything. But what we can do is focus our teaching so that students become experts on the skills that we are able to present. We have to scaffold by responding to our student learning. If our students have learned something or haven't learned something, then our next set of lessons need to focus on either building on what they did learn or repairing and re-instructing what they didn't learn. We need to develop higher order thinking, provide problem-solving experiences, accept responsibility for what works. What I mean by that is, if it doesn't work, or if something in the textbook or in the material that you do have isn't working, we need to go on a hunt. Ask one another. Go online. Ask other teachers. We need to accept responsibility to find material that will work for our students. Foster learning communities. That's part of fostering in the classroom and fostering professional learning communities when we tap into the expertise that we have here in this room. Number 8, the classroom as a learning community. So we have to have active knowledge construction. In order to do that, we have to have students comfortable enough to share. We have students from so many different ethnicities here in Plainfield. We have students from different countries here in Plainfield. We have students who have different backgrounds in terms of their living situations. And all of that knowledge can be grouped in such a way that students share and transform one another, first individually and then as a group. They get to share with one another. And when this knowledge is shared and it is distributed amongst the group, amongst the members of the group, and they are now able to take new knowledge and build on that new knowledge that was shared with them in their small groups. Realistic tasks, reflections, and reciprocal exchange. What is meant by that is that we have to make sure that the tasks that our students have are realistic. Then they have to be able to talk about it. They have to be able to think about what they've talked about. And then they need to exchange that with one another. Sharing the background, sharing their beliefs, sharing their traditions and their values. Number 9 is the reflective assessment piece. Assessments are always important. Again, as I've said earlier, I do not want you teaching to a test, but tests are important. It will help us drive our instruction. We need data-based instruction. It provides needed information for assisting students. It provides objectives for future lessons. It helps the student to narrow what the student is focusing on. If it's too specific, then it may only be relevant for 1 or 2. We need to make it a little bit more broad. Students should personalize objectives. Data sources. We need to have Think about our data sources. There will be mandated tests, there will be district-wide tests, formative and summative assessments, and teacher-written tests. What's more important is that we look at what's available from those assessments and we use it in order to help us plan for future objectives and lessons. Number 10, professional learning communities. Here is where we get to help one another. We need to be a strong support for one another. We need to be able to share our expertise. We need to have meaningful exchanges or engagement of ideas. We need to have study groups and maybe literature circles where one person is reading a book and they present it to the class. This is a great book. Why don't we read it together and come up with some ideas that we could use in our classrooms? We can help one another become better problem solvers. I've had trouble teaching this lesson to Johnny. Johnny is just not getting it. I've done this, I've done this. It seems as if Johnny doesn't seem to remember what symbols represent. What do you think I could do with him? And then you would find out that Ms. Ruiz has taken some multisensory workshops and could probably help Johnny and maybe would want to spend some time with Johnny. We need to be able to do that. We need to help one another solve problems. Or maybe Ms. Ruiz could work with you to teach you how to do some of the multisensory activities. We need to help each other interpret our teaching practices. And this takes a little bit of comfort. We need to be able to say, look, I'm not doing this well. Here is a video of me doing it. What do you think I could change? Or why don't you come in and sit in my classroom and watch this lesson? Tell me what I need to do to make these students have a better understanding or become more active learners in my classroom. I would really like to hear what you have to say. We need to be comfortable to do that, and that's only going to take place as we take time to have those discussions in here so that everyone feels comfortable with one another. What can you expect from me? You can expect that I will provide for you some partner recommendations. Just if I know that Ms. Ruiz does this well, and I know that Mrs. Comstock does this well, I'm going to have those two teachers meet and exchange ideas. We're going to evaluate and have class visitations that focus on pointing out the positives and creating a bank of in-house resources. I do not want to come into your classrooms and just point out negatives. I may say, look, I see that you might be struggling in this. Here's a teacher that's doing it well. Why don't you go have a conversation with them or watch them? I'll set up that time. Or I'll come in and say, oh, you do this so well. Will you present this to Ms. Sears? She needs a little help in this area. We need to be comfortable enough for that exchange to happen. And I'm going to make sure that I'm the first one to help you understand that this is not negative. This is building our teaching skills. We're going to provide professional development that focuses not only on training, but also on developing you as a professional. Meaningful intellectual, social, and emotional engagement with ideas, with material, and with our colleagues. Explicit account of the context of teaching and the experience of teachers. We're going to focus on building each other's teaching skills and to help you fulfill your professional goals. I am looking forward to this year with you. I am looking forward to working together to build the community of inquiring minds, of active learners. And I think that we can do that this year together in Evergreen, home of the Eagles. So let's have a great year.